I don't love, but I certainly like the Mana series. I've tried a handful of them, and I've gotten pretty far in the ones that I have tried. But one thing or another usually saps me away from the games and leaves them incomplete sitting in my library. On a to-do list that'll never get completed. And if I'm being honest, I'm unlikely to go back to these games and finish them. But I certainly find myself buying these games more often than not. And when they announced Visions of Mana, a brand new, wholly original Mana game, I decided to put my foot down and say, I'm gonna beat this one. I'm gonna beat this game. And, well, a Friday and a weekend later, I'm here to say that I beat it. And it's been beaten. And I have thoughts. Visions of Mana is an action-adventure RPG that's part of the Of Mana series, or maybe it's just Mana series, or Mana. I don't know, I don't care enough to suss out the truth at this point. It's part of a series of action-adventure RPGs, and they typically revolve around a group of characters with changeable classes doing something with a mana tree. Mana tree. And this game is no different. In this game, you start as your protagonist, Val, and play through his journey as guardian of the Alms, who have to sacrifice themselves to the mana tree to keep the world's order at peace, or whatever. And I'm not going to go into story spoilers here, but pretty quickly you find out that Val's love interest is this girl named Hina, who is the Alm of Fire. So they get to have one last romantic journey together, where Val will guard her on their way to the mana tree, and you'll pick up some new friends who are other Alms along the way that'll build up your party as you head to sacrifice them at the mana tree in this 25 to 30 hour action-adventure RPG. Now aesthetically, this game is pretty cool, but also it's a bit off. The world feels like the designers were in a competition to make every environment, even the spooky ones, feel super colorful and cheerful. Like it does not feel like you're on a trip to sacrifice some people to a fucking tree in this game. Like, it does not feel that way at all. Especially with how cheerful the world is and how cutesy everything is. Aside from a couple bosses, most enemies in this game are very cute. Like, you kind of don't want to hurt them. But it's a video game, so I got over that pretty fast and murdered them for the EXP, because what else are you supposed to do with them? I mean, they gotta go. You know, they just gotta go. You know, there does not exist space for me and the little yellow furball. There's just not enough space for both me and him. So just gotta. Where were we? All the characters look pretty good in this game, however, there's some kind of off-putting things to me. You see, this is a modern game in a world where no color people exist, and that's weird. To make a whole fantasy world where a person of color doesn't do anything important, but at least exists, is one thing, but deadass to make a game where there are no people of color at all, to me, in my opinion, that's weird. I genuinely struggle how you can go through the details to find out what a baobab tree is and implement it into the sandy desert area of your game, but then decide, yeah, no colored people will inhabit this world. That's fucking weird. But, this is a Squeenix game, and they are not new to this concept, but still, it's unfortunate, and it's just this weirdness you get in the game that, these kind of people who are very real don't exist. Weirdness aside, let's go to the music. While the game is very visually engaging and the worlds are lush and lavish to look at and explore, the game's OST is kinda not that at all. I've genuinely forgotten what this game sounds like already, and I spent 25 hours playing it. I never thought a piece of music in this game was bad, but I also never thought anything in this game was a bop. I never sat the controller down and was like, oh yeah, time to disco, baby. Never happened to me. And I'm a booty jammer, so it upset me that this game had no jams to booty to, but it was still a serviceable soundtrack that didn't, leave me hoping that it would all be over. The narrative for this game, however, did have me hoping that it would just all end from time to time. I don't mean to be harsh when I say this, and I know localization is a monumental task, especially with a limited budget, but the localization's dub for this game is interesting, to say the least. The main cast do a genuinely okay job at acting the characters, but it frequently feels like they were lacking direction or something at the studio. And with how often they interact with characters who sound rough, is upsetting. You'll hear a lot of voice acting in parentheses in this game, and there's not a lot you can do about it. The game's voice acting problems, coupled with the bog standard narrative, had me at my wits' end a lot of the time. And about 30% way through the game, I just started fucking skipping cutscenes. Like, holy shit, these were getting annoying. And I recommend you do the same. I did stop skipping them about 80% of the way through the game, and sometimes I would watch a couple cutscenes just to get caught up with what was happening. But Jesus Christ, was it boring and not worth it. I'm not going to spoil the game, but I'm going to say, if you're playing this game and you're not vibing with the story, hold Y. Hold Y, my friend. You can skip it. You don't have to suffer like I did. Speaking of suffering, I wouldn't call this game's ending bad, and I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to call it bad either. But I'm going to say this game has an absolute ending of all time. Like, the game ended, and I was like, okay, that's it. And then out of nowhere, it does one of the wildest things I've ever seen. I was genuinely shocked about how, like, after the post-credits scene for this game, undisputed ending of all time. Right? That's a way to end it. Right? This game is over. They really meant it. During the actual gameplay, you'll spend it exploring colorful and well-realized environments, as well as the occasional diving into a dungeon that might require some light puzzle solving every now and then. You'll also see yourself fighting enemies in the action RPG combat system that offers a fair amount of variety. However, there's a team setup that I found while playing this game that just seems better. And I looked at some random gameplay of the game, and I found that they were using the same setup I was using. And this happened more than once. I found multiple videos of people using the same setup that I was using, and nobody told me to use the setup I was using. It just seemed optimal. So there is variety to the combat, but it seems that Morley, the cat guy, is kind of the best and can easily dominate fights, so there's no reason not to use him or just to dump all your upgrades to him, because he's just better. Speaking of upgrades, there's a lot of them. For each elemental type, your character gets a skill branch, and not a tree because it's a straight line, but still a place where you can upgrade your character, get moves, spells, attacks, and skills. What I like about this is that spells and attacks or moves that you learn carry over to other elemental classes. Attacks specifically that use the same weapon carry over. Obviously, like the knife skills aren't going to move over to the sword, but you can still get an ability or two from other classes and still use it as you choose to go a different route with your character, so you're not going to be cut off from it. However, the game's skills are going to be exclusive to that specific class. Also, each class has its own special ability, and one of them is just to stop time, Zerworldo style. Deadass. So, like, use that one. Like, holy shit, it can stop fucking time. In a fight, it lets you tell the enemy, no, it's my turn, and then you wail on it. It's kind of broken. And it's an AoE that stops time and goes nuts, but eventually you're going to get an upgrade for it. And it grabs any difficulty in this game by the balls and says, nah, I'm going to do my own thing. Combat aside, you'll do typical RPG things like gain experience, manage equipment, go to shops, find treasure, and complete side quests, as well as fill out skill branches with points you accrue. There's plenty to do and see in this game's world, and the combat system is kind of choosable. The enemies in this game compound the difficulty issues, as they are usually pushovers. There's no truly strong enemies in the game at all. They're all pretty weak. There's some powerful bosses that are fun to fight, but the game doesn't really do anything interesting with its combat to really complement the bosses. You can break parts of them off sometimes, and they have elemental weaknesses and resistances, but most of the time a boss fight comes down to casting the elemental type the boss is weak to on your weapon, and then wailing away for 8 minutes while occasionally dodging some attacks. It's serviceable, but there are games with a quarter of this game's length that have 8 times the depth in regards to combat. It should be very obvious that this game probably did not have a massive budget, but they could have tried to make the combat deeper rather than wider in my opinion. My overall experience with this game was mostly positive. It wasn't life-changing, but I had fun, and I can finally say that I beat one of these damn games. And honestly, the one that came out before this one, Trials of Mana, seems to me to have been a bit more fun than what I just played. So I'm excited to someday, hopefully, maybe, go back and play that one on Steam. Visions of Mana is what I'd call pretty good. And I think if you need a game to kind of turn your brain off to and look at some fun visuals and have a happy time, I think this game will deliver that to you in spades. It's nothing life-changing, but it's something that is worthwhile. And I can probably say, if the next Mana game comes out and takes steps in the right direction... Okay, newsflash. Turns out the team that made this game was fucking laid off. Thank you, NetEase. Glad you laid the team off days after the game came out. Fuck you. Fuck you all. Really, eat a bag. Like, this game was pretty good. And now that team probably won't get a chance to make another pretty great game. So, fuck you, I guess. I was going to talk about how, I'm excited for the next Mana game to come out in a bit more. But that's probably not happening. Maybe if enough people buy this one, fucking Squeenix will decide to put together another ragtag group of people. Hopefully people that won't get fucking laid off days after the game launches, and they can make another one. But I don't know if that'll happen at this point. This might be the end of the Mana series for a fucking while. Congrats. Dead on arrival. Like, goddamn. Insane. I'm just finding this out, not like, obviously I read this and I scripted part of this, but this is just me. I'm shocked. I didn't think this would happen. I didn't see this being how this. I don't know. Didn't see it going down like this. Mana heads. If you like Mana games, tell me which one is your favorite in the comments below. Use secret code word HEAD. That's right, use the word HEAD in your message, so I know you made it through to the end. I also enjoyed making this review. I have another review cooking, but I also have another video cooking that isn't a review as well, so hopefully those go over well. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. See you next time. What else? I don't know. It's September. Can you believe it's September? I can't.